Hey, friend, and welcome back to Leading with Grace. I am Tanika M. Asiedu, and today's conversation, it grew out of something that I have been doing quite a lot of lately, and that's watching the FIFA World Cup. Yes, I grew into a soccer lover. I'm married to a Ghanaian, and the way we played last week, yeah, this week I should say, can't stop us. So when I say watching, I don't mean casually checking the score. I watched almost every game that I could catch. And I've been paying attention to the players, the coaches, the substitutions, the momentum shifts, and the way one direction can change the entire direction of a match. The more that I've watched, the more I begin thinking about alignment. And soccer is one of the cleanest and clearest examples of what happens when people understand their roles or trust the strategy and remain connected to something larger than individual performance. A team can have talented players and still struggle, and they can control possession and still fail to score. It's mind blowing. They can also have the biggest names, the most resources, and the highest expectations. But if they lose their shape or stop communicating or even begin playing as individuals instead of a coordinated unit, their talent will not be enough. That has made me think about how many of us are attempting to lead our lives. We're talented, we're committed, we love God, we care about our families, our work, our ministries, and things we have been called to build. But the problem is not always the lack of desire or ability. Sometimes the problem is that we are trying to play every position ourselves. We're chasing every ball, responding to every need, or correcting every mistake, carrying every responsibility, and inserting ourselves into every open space. Then we wonder why we're exhausted and why the rest of our lives are no longer shaped the way we expect them to be, or they don't have any shape at all sometimes. And today I want to go deeper than telling you to choose one priority or make a shorter to-do list. Those things can help, but the real conversation is about formation. What position are you actually responsible for playing in this season? What happens to your family, your business, your team, your ministry when you repeatedly abandon that position? And have you confused being capable of doing something with being assigned to actually carry it? Those are leadership questions, and they're also stewardship questions. One of the most fascinating things about the World Cup, or that I'm learning, is that national teams, they're bringing together players who normally actually compete for different clubs, different coaches, different systems. I just realized that, or I just figured out or learned that FIFA is like our Olympics every 4 years. And during those 4 years when they're off season, they're still playing on other teams. Most of the times on different teams against each other. And these players may be individually exceptional, but they still have to learn how to function together. They have to understand the formations, recognize one another's tendencies, and communicate under pressure. They have to submit their individual preferences to a shared strategy, and that is not automatic. They can put gifted people in the same room without creating an effective team. And you can also have multiple good opportunities in your life without those opportunities forming an aligned assignment. This is where many high capacity individuals become overwhelmed because we assume that because each responsibility matters, each responsibility must receive equal access to us. And we give it. My marriage matters. My children matter. My career matters. My education matters. My health matters. My business, my ministry matters. Relationships, my personal development, all of it, it matters. All of that, it may be true, but alignment is not simply acknowledging that everything is important. Alignment requires deciding how those important things will work together in this particular season. Let's look at a soccer coach, right? A soccer coach does not send every player forward simply because scoring is important. If everyone chases the goal, the team becomes exposed. The field opens up behind them and they may create a moment of excitement, but they lose structure, the necessary structure to sustain the match. And some of us are living in that way. Everything feels so important. So we send all of our energy towards that one or two things at the same time. We try to grow our business, strengthen our marriage, become more present with the children, improve our health, serve the church, finish school, create content, answer everyone and correct every area of weakness simultaneously. Then something gets through our defense. Our body begins to fight against us. The home becomes tense out of nowhere. Our spiritual life becomes rushed. Our businesses become reactive. We become physically present in several places while remaining mentally absent from all of them. And that is not necessarily because we are doing the wrong things. It may be because we are doing good things without a formation. And a formation, it answers more than what matters. It also answers who is responsible for what. Where must our attentions be concentrated, or what are we protecting? Where are we actually currently vulnerable that we have not been paying close attention to? And when should we move forward? When should we hold our positions? I'm still looking, and I'm actually peeking at a game right now, but when should we move forward? When should we hold back? When should we waste some time? When should we act like we're hurt? Like all the good stuff. What must we stop doing so that the whole can function properly? This is why I say that peace does not come simply from doing less. Peace comes from being aligned. So you can have a short list filled with responsibilities that do not belong to you and remain exhausted. You can also have a full season that is demanding but deeply aligned. The question is not only how much you are carrying. The question becomes is whether what you are carrying belongs in your position. Think about that for a second, because this is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable for some of us. And once again, in the uncomfortable areas is where we grow. So I encourage you to lean into that, because high capacity people are often rewarded for leaving their position. When something is not getting done, we step in. When another person drops the ball, we pick it up. When the instructions are unclear, we figure them out. And when the system does not exist, we build one. When someone needs help, we make room, even if we don't necessarily have it to make. Those qualities may have helped us become trusted leaders. They may have helped our family survive difficult seasons, and they may also have helped our organizations continue operating when resources was limited or null and void. But a strength with used without discernment, it can eventually become a liability and do more harm than good. There's a difference between serving and over functioning. Serving means that I'm contributing, and I contribute what I have been entrusted to contribute. But over functioning, it means that I'm consistently assuming responsibility for what other people must learn to carry. And serving strengthens the whole, while over functioning, it can quietly train everyone around us to depend on my exhaustion or our exhaustion, to depend on us to pull through when no one else can. That's the hard truth, particularly for women who have built an identity around being dependable. We may say nobody else will do it correctly, but sometimes no one else has been given enough space to learn it. Or we may say that it's easier if I just do it myself. I'm that type of person. But it's easier in the moment um, to create, and matter of fact, it creates an unhealthy system over time because people depend on it. We may call it excellence when part of it is actually fear. Fear that something will fail, feel that, we'll disappoint someone, or that our value will decrease, or if we're no longer the person holding everything together. That's why this is deeper than just time management. A planner cannot resolve an identity that depends on being needed. A color coded calendar, I've tried it. I love them though, but it cannot fix a leadership structure in which one person has become the entire system. And a shorter task list, it won't help. if you continue filling it with responsibilities that belong to other capable adults or even teenagers. Sometimes the question is not how can I accomplish all this? The better question is why have I assumed that all of this requires me? Why have I assumed that it's all for me in the first place? Open up your Bibles. 1 Corinthians 12. It gives us a powerful picture of this. Paul explains that the body is made up of many members and every part has a necessary function. The eye cannot say it does not need the hand, and the whole body cannot become one part. That passage is often used to affirm that everyone belongs, but it's also teaching us something about our limitations because no individual part was designed to perform every function. The body works because the parts are different, connected, and faithful to their own functions. Dependence is not a weakness in that system. Dependence is a part of the overall design. You were not created to be the entire body. You were not created to be the entire team or to play every position. Mature leadership is not proven by how unnecessary you can make everyone else. Mature leadership, it creates the clarity and the structure that allows other people to contribute well. It empowers others. Now, as I've watched these matches, I've also noticed how easily we focus on the person with the ball, right? We focus on the one that is this still called dribbling? It's called dribbling when they go down when they're running the ball. Yeah, the person that's dribbling. We're focused on that one person. Our eyes naturally follow the action. We notice the goal score and the dramatic save or the player creating the opportunity. But there are players doing important work away from the ball. They're maintaining spaces, they're tracking the opponents, they're protecting an area, or they're putting themselves in place for what may happen next. Their work may not make the highlight reel, but it protects the team structure. And that is such an important picture for life and leadership because we're living in a culture that rewards visible momentum. We celebrate launches and announcements and growth and accomplishments and expansion. We do not always celebrate the person who maintained the foundation. We don't always see the boundary that protected a marriage, the weekly planning rhythm that stabilized the household, or a quiet decision that delayed an opportunity. How about the leader who developed a team inside of remaining and instead of remaining the center of every operation? Sometimes faithfulness, it looks like advancing. It looks like holding your position at times as well. Because holding your position may mean continuing the work that God has already gave you while everyone else appears to be announcing something new. It may be strengthening an existing offer instead of creating another one. Or it may mean being fully present with your family during a demanding season in your life. It may also mean allowing someone else to lead without correcting every detail or protecting your health before your body forces you to stop. It may mean completing what you have already started or holding your position. It's not the same as being stagnant. A disciplined player is constantly reading the field, communicating, adjusting, and preparing. But that player is not abandoning the strategy simply because another part of the field looks more exciting. This is where seasonal discernment becomes extremely important and where we have to remain in tune with the Holy Spirit. What is your position in this season? Not forever, not for the rest of your life, just right now. Perhaps this is a building season for you or a strengthening season. Maybe it's a healing season or a season of learning, a season of delegating, or a season of completion. Because if you misidentify the season, you may judge yourself unfairly. You may call yourself behind because you're comparing your season of strengthening to someone else's season of expansion. But growth is not always visible movement. Sometimes growth is becoming strong enough to sustain what you have been praying to receive. So Going back to our FIFA analogies, right? A team enters a match with a plan, but it also has to respond to what is actually happening on the field because both teams are coming with their own plans. The coach may change the formation. A substitution may enter. We have seen injuries happen where people had to be taken off the field. A player may be asked to take a different responsibility or needs to become a little bit more aggressive or protective. That doesn't necessarily mean that the original plan was wrong. It means wise strategy remains responsive to reality. This is another place where leaders can get stuck. We create a plan based on one version of our lives, and then we continue to try to force that plan after our capacity, responsibilities, or our environment has changed. Our children, they grow. Our schedules, work, or anything else changes. Our health requires our attention. I'm preaching to myself. The business grows, it continues to develop. Our team expands, which I'm loving right now, and the assignment becomes more complex. Yet we continue using the same rhythms because changing the plan feels like inconsistency. But adjustments, I'm learning, it's not a failure. Sometimes adjustments is evidence that you are paying attention. You're picking up on the cues. You're using your discernment. And a mature operating rhythm, it must be able to respond to reality without losing its purpose. That means we need regular opportunities to review what is working, where pressure is building, and what the current season requires. In soccer, now we have water breaks and then halftime. It creates space for that review. The team does not leave the field pretending that the first half did not happen. They examine it. Where are we losing possession? Where is the opponent finding space? And what is working? Who needs additional support? And what adjustments will give us the best opportunity in the second half? Many of us need a halftime or a water break. Those conversations that happen during that space, we need it in our lives too. We need to stop long enough to examine the field without shaming ourselves. Where is pressure repeatedly entering? And which responsibilities depend too heavily on me? What can be delegated? Or what am I continuing simply because I once committed to it? Where have I lost my position? And what is producing a genuine fruit? We must inspect our own fruit. What needs to be delegated, delayed, redesigned, or released? This is the heart of the align method inside of TMAN. We assess what has actually happened rather than what we wish were happening. We locate the true source of the pressure that is in our lives. We identify what matters most and what needs to be changed or let go. We generate practical decision and structures that support the desired outcomes that we want to see in our lives. And then we normalize the rhythms. And that allows alignment to become sustainable after the framework has been worked through. Because alignment is not a perfect plan that never changes. It is the ability to recognize when the current structure is no longer supporting the assignment and make a wise adjustment. The choice to remain aligned. Because one of the most powerful performances in this tournament so far has came from and I'm gonna say the name wrong, but Eloy Room. I know you guys have seen him. His social media has skyrocketed since yesterday's game, but he has earned the first World Cup point after a scoreless draw with Ecuador, and Room reportedly made a record of 15 saves. Think about that. He didn't score a goal. He did not control the entire field. He did not try to play every position, but he played his part faithfully. He guarded what has been entrusted to him, and his performance helped change the history of his national team. There's a lesson in that for us. And watching him knock those balls, like 39 shots, 15 protected by him, Impact is not always created by doing the most. Sometimes it's created by taking full responsibility for the part that is only solely yours. What has God actually entrusted you with in this season? What goals are you responsible for protecting? What position requires your presence? And what would become possible if you had stopped scattering your energy across the entire field and brought your full attention to that assignment? There may be other important work happening around you, even at this moment. There may be people who appear to have more visible roles, but visibility, it does not determine our value. You do not have to touch every part of the work for your contribution to matter. You just have to be faithful with your part. I want to leave you with a practical exercise, of course, because that's what we do here at TMAC. I want you to choose one area of your life, whether it's your home, your business, your career, your ministry, your health, your leadership, and then answer these three questions. Number one, what is my actual role? Write down what you are uniquely responsible for in this area. Separate that from what you have assumed or inherited or continued doing because others expected it. And then number two, what result are we trying to produce? This keeps activity from becoming the goal. A team does not win because everyone ran the hardest. Movement must contribute to the result. What outcome matters in this season? Is it growth? Is it stability? Is it completion? Is it recovery? Stronger communication or a repeatable system? And then number three, what rhythm will help us remain in formation? What meeting or boundary, system, planning practice, delegation decision, or review rhythm would help everyone involved understand what matters and what they are responsible for carrying? Role, result, rhythm. Those three questions can expose a great deal of confusion. When the role is unclear, people either compete or we withdraw. But when the result is unclear, activity, it replaces progress. When the rhythm is missing, even good intentions become inconsistent. And this week, I do not want you to create another impossible list. I want you to examine the formation. Look at the whole field. Try to notice where you have been chasing responsibility or where things no longer fit or belong in your life. Notice where your actual assignment has been left unprotected because you were busy helping everywhere else. Then you have to make one, not five, not 10, make one strategic adjustment. That may mean clarifying a role, having a difficult conversation, delegating a responsibility, changing a weekly rhythm, or giving yourself permission, a lot of permission and grace, to remain focused on the work already in front of you. My brother or my sister, you can be deeply gifted and still need structure. You can love people and still need boundaries. You can be capable of helping and still decide that your responsibility, or their responsibility, I should say, it's not yours. You can adjust the plan without abandoning the purpose, and you can remain faithful without being involved in everything. You do not have to play every position. You just need to understand what has been entrusted to you, remain connected to people around you, and build a formation that allows the whole to function and not just the self. If you are struggling to identify your position or determine where your life has lost its shape, I want you to take the free, once again, free, FREE, align assessment. It will help you examine where the pressure is coming from and what may need attention next. Then you can join us inside the Align Room on School. That is where we are continuing these conversations through practical tools, implementation support, and co-working and accountability. Because clarity is valuable, but clarity must eventually become structure. And structure, It must become a sustainable rhythm. Until next time, keep leading, building, and stewarding what God has placed in your hands with clarity and with grace. Jesus loves you, and so do I. I'll see you in the next one.